Hey guys, welcome to At the Table. Sydney here, and we are getting right into school season. You may have some little ones starting school, or maybe have grandkids starting school, or you know somebody starting school, and it's a lot, right? Getting ready for school, getting prepared for the day is a lot. So I have a couple recipes that I thought we would try today. My son, who is my oldest, he just started a new preschool, and they actually are not doing breakfast at that preschool. So we've had to change up our routine a little bit and make sure that I have breakfast every morning for him before he leaves. So I felt like this goes right along with everybody else kind of starting school and trying to get breakfast on the table, get out the door quickly and efficiently. And that can be tough. So I have a few recipes. We have done back to school breakfast before. This is not a new topic, but these recipes are a little bit different. And for the majority of them, they would be really good make ahead breakfast. So this could be something, because this is kind of my plan, thinking myself, and maybe what you're thinking as well, on how to be more efficient in the mornings. So these recipes are both three recipes actually. Two of them can be made ahead of time. So this might be something that you make on the weekend and you have it as an option for your morning breakfast for the week. The other one's a quick, it's a French toast in a mug type of recipe. So it's a lot more of a quick throw together recipe that you could also do. But what we're gonna start with first is the muffins, just because muffins tend to take a little bit longer. And this does not have any sugar to it. You can absolutely add maple syrup. I think that would be really good. Brown sugar, regular sugar, any type of sweetener that you prefer. But we are using bananas. And yes, my banana looks really gross. That's because it was frozen. And I do prefer a fresh, ripe banana typically for recipes. But a lot of times we have those fresh, ripe bananas that go bad. And in order to prevent them from going bad, you can throw them in the freezer. So if you have that as an option, do that as well. The only difference, I always try to drain a little bit of the excess water that will just naturally happen from the banana. So we have to mash that up first, not real hard once it's been frozen and kind of thawed out. It's already easy to mash. Next thing we're gonna add are some eggs. So that's another part of what makes this recipe really good. A lot of times when we think about muffins, we're thinking about mainly just carbohydrates, which are great, but that will provide kind of more quick energy for your kiddos, and it's gonna burn off rather quickly and they will be hungry pretty quick after that. So this one does include some eggs, and that is a little smart trick that you can do if you're making pancakes, waffles, muffins, anything like that. If you add an egg to it, you add a little bit of fat and a little bit of protein as well, just to help round out your recipe in general. I also saw a trick where folks were doing that with, they were adding eggs to pasta. Like if you have a kid who just will only eat butter noodles, you could add an egg in there and you can't even taste it or see it. It's kind of hidden, but it's a great way to add protein and a little bit of healthy fats as well, and should help to satisfy them for a little bit longer. Okay, so we've got our eggs. We also need to add, try not to spill that, oil and milk. We have about 1/4 cup of oil and milk, pretty standard for most of your muffin recipes that you will do. I'm just using olive oil today. I think a vegetable oil would be totally fine. This is just what I have on hand. And whatever milk of choice that you prefer. So 1/4 cup each, that ends up being about 1/2 cup total. And then let me move my little fork. Pour it in. So this recipe does have a couple interesting things in it. It does include carrots, but we're gonna chop those up a little bit further so that they will hopefully not be visible or really can't taste them. And then you do have raisins if you want to add those to kind of sweeten it up. So a few options for kind of making this recipe your own, a little bit more versatile. Adding a little bit of vanilla. This is about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then we're going to add kind of more of your grains. So for this recipe, we're going to be adding a cup of oats. And oats are really great to add to muffins because they are a whole grain. So you're like, Sydney, what's the difference in why do I have to use the whole grains in my recipes? Well, those, what we would say more of your white grains or those grains that are like, for instance, white flour. This is what I'm going to be using. Recipe calls for almond flour. I did not have that. Did not feel like buying that. White flour should be okay. But because I am using white flour, I'm reducing the amount of whole grains in my recipe. And those whole grains just help to satisfy you for longer. So it takes your body longer to digest those whole grains. So it will keep you full for longer versus that quick energy. If you eat a piece of white bread, for instance, be pretty hungry not long after. So that is kind of our base, is our flour and our oats. What we'll do next, we'll go ahead and take a quick break, and then I'll see you guys back in just a minute to finish up the recipe's ingredients.
Great communities attract talented people to live, work, and raise their families. We're committed to delivering future-proof broadband so our friends, families, and neighbors can live rich lives in smart rural communities across America. Your community is our community. We're your rural broadband partners. You do great things. We make great things possible.
Hey guys, welcome back. So we have our flour and our oats mixed in. We're gonna go ahead and add our baking powder and baking soda here. So we need about a teaspoon of baking powder and then half a teaspoon of baking soda. And then we have a couple other ingredients we're gonna be adding as well. So we'll be doing cinnamon, of course, just for a little extra flavor. Think about cinnamon a lot with breakfast. I did actually have a student this summer, because I do cooking classes with our 4-H kids, who hated cinnamon. So if you have kiddos that are like that, just don't put cinnamon in it. Lots of other options that you can do. That was the first one for me. And then we also add a little bit of salt. Salt enhances the flavor as well. Ooh, for some recipes, you need salt, otherwise it's going to be yucky. For most recipes, really. People, I think, tend to think the salt doesn't do a whole lot when they're baking, but salt actually really, really does affect your flavor, even if you use a small amount. And then kind of our more special ingredient is going to be flaxseed. Now, ground flaxseed is wonderful. Typically, we want to be purchasing the ground flaxseed, not the whole flax seeds, because it's harder for our body to digest the whole flax seeds. They'll end up kind of coming out the other end, versus when you buy them ground up already, your body is already able to utilize all the nutrients in the flax seeds. And flax seeds are really great for brain health. So you think about kiddos going to school to learn and all the things. We want to make sure their brains are ready and able to soak up all that knowledge that they're going to be getting. So that's because of the omegas that we have in our flaxseed. So you can add that to oatmeal, smoothies, cereal. You could probably sprinkle it on your cereal if you wanted to, although it might kind of get absorbed into the milk. put it in yogurt, all kinds of things, but flaxseed is a wonderful thing to add to foods for our kiddos. All right, and then we're just gonna add a few other ingredients, and that is some raisins. Now, I only have, calls for half a cup. I probably have a quarter of a cup of raisins. So I don't have a ton of raisins here. It says that you can totally omit the raisins as well. I'm just gonna use what we have and it'll be fine. But you could even switch that up, do the cranberry raisins. I think it would also be good to do fruit as well, like blueberries, if you wanna do more of a blueberry muffin or things like that. Now it calls for grated carrots. I am a mom of a toddler. I guess they're both technically toddlers now. I have a 3-year-old and not quite a 1.5-year-old. So no, I don't have a lot of time to grate a bunch of carrots. So what I'm gonna do instead is just buy the matchstick carrots. Also thinking about what I'm gonna use these the most for. Typically, I would use more of the matchsticks in things like my salads or maybe stir fries. So I'm more likely to use up that ingredient in other recipes at home. And when we're thinking about food waste, that is key. We don't want to be wasting our food, right? We want to be saving it, spending it, eating it, or money. We don't want to be wasting our money. So we have, it ends up being about 3/4 of a cup of carrots. I chop them down just a little bit further. If you have really picky kids when it comes to something like carrots, you might want to chop them down even more finely. Big difference here in us chopping these matchstick carrots instead of, looks like about 3/4 cup. Did a little extra. Is if you are grating fresh carrots, they tend to be more fine and just a little bit of a different texture versus the matchstick. So just keep that in mind. That is part of why I think it would be great to chop them up even further, because these are a lot thicker than if you were to actually grate carrots themselves. So just stir this all up, and then we're gonna put this into our muffin tins. So it's almost kind of like a carrot cake muffin recipe with just a little bit less sugar. When we think about kids, younger kids, we really aim to not do quite as much sugar in their diet. So they say before 2, you should avoid sugar. Did that pretty well with my first kid. Second kid, not so much. All depends on your family and what's kind of going on. But if you can find ways to reduce the sugar in your recipes, kids tend to get a lot of sugar. We use candy and treats and all kinds of things for incentives, and especially when you think about them going to school, they're going to be more exposed to that even further. So just keep that in mind. If we can reduce that in the morning, it's great. If not, it's okay. You can add a little syrup to it and it'll be fine. So I'm just filling these about 3/4 of full, and I have my oven on 350, so we will go ahead. I'll finish doing this, get them in the oven, and we will see you guys back in just another minute.
Ready to turn your creativity into a career? At Bladen Community College's Cosmetology Department, we're shaping the future of beauty one student at a time. From hairstyling and makeup to skincare and nails, you'll gain hands-on experience with real clients, expert instructors, and industry tools. Your career-focused degree or certificate in cosmetology is waiting. Learn more at bladencc.edu or give us a call to get started today.
Computer viruses, malware, and ransomware are out there. They're dangerous, and they can steal your identity and damage your equipment. Star Communications is now offering Protect IQ. This service adds an extra layer of protection to every device connected to your network, working quietly in the background. Star can help you protect yourself from the inside out with Protect IQ. Call Star today and take advantage of this free service when you sign up for whole home Wi-Fi with Star Communications.
Hey guys, so we have the muffins in the oven. Next thing we're gonna be making are protein bagel bites. And these recipes, by the way, are from toddler dietitian Tiff is her name. That's her Instagram handle, but it's also her website as well. She is a dietitian. She has a lot of really good recipes. Obviously, they're toddler focused, but I think these are great for any aged kids, which is why I bring them to you today. But they're all a little bit more well-rounded recipes versus like just a bagel bite. We'll say bagels do have protein in them. A lot of people just think they're straight up carbs, but there is a little bit of protein. But this recipe specifically has a little bit of Greek yogurt added to it. So it really kind of revs up the nutrients in our bagel bites. You can also, there's a couple of adjustments you can make to this recipe to make them different flavors, but these would be a really good one to make ahead and then store. Depending on what you put inside, you can probably store them on the counter, or you could store them in the refrigerator and just heat them up for just a few minutes. So very few ingredients with this, which is great, right? Because we don't want to have a bunch of stuff that we need to buy. So for this, we're going to use flour. We have 1 cup of flour. And this is an air fryer recipe, but you can put this in the oven as well if you don't have an air fryer. If you don't have an air fryer, you need one. I live by my air fryer. Okay, so a little bit of flour. We also have 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And we're just making our dough right now. So we want to make sure that we have everything in there that it can expand as needed. A little bit of salt, same thing as last time that I mentioned. Salt is really important for flavor. Just about 1/4 teaspoon, so not much at all. And then we're going to mix this together first, and then we will add in our Greek yogurt. So all of those things should be things you have in your pantry. The only thing you might not have is the Greek yogurt. So we're going to add 1 cup of Greek yogurt. So this ends up being, if you have these little containers, cup is 8 ounces. This is 5.3 ounces. So it's about 1.5 of these little cups if you don't use Greek yogurt a lot. I use it a good bit in some different recipes, but also we'll use it like as a substitution for sour cream. So that's another way that you might want to get just the bigger container, and that'll save you a little bit of money. I'm using about 1.5 of these. So, spill flour everywhere. This will make kind of like a sticky dough, and we're gonna roll it out. Might take a minute to stir. So I splash everywhere. But I think this one would also be a fun one to have the kids help you make, because kids love playing with dough. So we're going to kind of roll it out into almost more like a hot dog shape, and then we're going to cut it into those 1-inch segments so that they'll be more like bagel bites. And now your options here, flavor-wise, I have some everything but the bagel seasoning. For me personally, I find that it's a little bit too salty, so I found a salt-free one. It's a Mrs. Stash, but that is something I've been craving. I am pregnant with my 3rd baby. I've been craving that for some reason, and putting it on avocado toast, things like that. But it's just so salty, I couldn't handle the regular kind. So when I found that, I was very excited. Now I'm going to put a little bit of parchment paper down, just because this will get messy. And we're going to do like two hot dogs here. So you can see it's kind of that dough consistency. So we're just going to roll it out as best you can. If you need to put a little flour down or put some flour on your hands, you could do that. They don't have to be perfect. Yes, this is a cooking show, but I am no famous chef, okay? Y'all haven't figured that out yet. All right, looks good enough to me. So we're gonna make these in about 1 inch segments. So just cut those up, and you can already tell they kind of look like little bagel bites. And then all we're gonna do is I'm gonna do 1 egg, whisk an egg. It says egg whites, but I like to utilize the whole egg because waste not, want not. So we're gonna just do a little egg wash for this. And then we'll sprinkle our seasoning. So I've got this. And then I'll sprinkle my seasoning all on top. You could do like more of a cinnamon sugar seasoning if you'd like. A little bit messy, but really all these ingredients are easy to find, and it's not a ton of stuff. It's really not taking long to make this. So sprinkle our everything bagel seasoning. And then what we're gonna do is pop these into the air fryer for about 10 minutes. So take a quick break. I'll go ahead and get these in our air fryer so that we have enough time to make our last recipe.
If you're a small business owner or prospective entrepreneur, the Bladen Community College Small Business Center is here to help you. They offer free seminars to help you start or grow your existing business, and one-on-one counseling and assistance is available if needed. They can also provide you with community and statewide resources. Best of all of these services are free. Let the Bladen Community College Small Business Center help you turn your dreams into reality. Contact the Bladen Community College Small Business Center today.
Hey guys, welcome back. So I do have our bagel bites in our air fryer. They actually have about 2 minutes left, but whenever you're arranging those, you want to make sure that they're not touching. Spray your air fryer, the bottom of your air fryer, or you can also just use parchment paper. I prefer to spray. Air fryers need that airflow. That's the whole point of an air fryer. And so it has that grate in the bottom with the holes in it. And there are things that you can use. Some people will get these like inserts that you can use to kind of protect your air fryer, but it does block some of that air from flowing freely. So personally, I'm not a fan of any of those added things unless you're making something specifically that will do better with a liner. So those are almost done. We'll probably hear it beep in just a minute. Also, our muffins were done. I did go ahead and eat one real quick because Mama's hungry, and they do need a little extra sugar. I would maybe add a tablespoon of maple syrup to it, or 2 tablespoons. We'll see how my kids like them. Hopefully they'll enjoy them. You never know what they'll eat. But you could also do something like, I think even spreading a little peanut butter on top. If you have really young kids that don't really care as much, I think applesauce would be good to kind of spread on top. You could drizzle with maple syrup as well. So it's not necessarily in it, but you still get that flavor, and that will hit your tongue first. Or definitely using the cranberry raisins and more raisins than what we did in this recipe would be good. Or adding 2 bananas instead of 1. So those are just a few things that I took note of with this specific recipe. We're gonna do our French toast in a mug recipe next. Thing with this recipe is it also goes in the air fryer. I was thinking it was more of a microwave recipe, but it does require air fryer, but it's only about 6 minutes in your air fryer. It says 6 to 10. I don't think it will take a total of 10 minutes in there, honestly. So it is still a very quick recipe. And I think if you were to do multiple, you could, like, let's say you have 3 kids or 2 kids, or it's you making this for you and your spouse. You could do 2 mugs at once, and it would work fine. So it's a great way to kind of personalize and make multiple at one time. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these up. We need cubed bread, and it says about 1 cup of cubed bread. This should be a really quick recipe. We have just this little bit to make it before we go out. We don't have much left of the show. see if I can do it. But this should be about a cup, 2 slices, or if you're, maybe you've used bread for something else and you've saved the crust, things like that. If you do homemade Uncrustables, you could use the crust that's left over from that and make these French toast. This is, I prefer the Dave's Killer bread. It's just what I enjoy, but it has the seeds and stuff inside. You could use any bread that you like. I'm gonna do 1 egg. And we'll whisk that all together. We have 2 tablespoons of milk. And the great thing about this is all of the additional toppings that you can do with this. So I'll show you guys that in just a minute as well. Do a little bit of cinnamon. It says 1/2 teaspoon. I'm just gonna eyeball. And then we have about 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Not as good at eyeballing liquids. And that was just about 1/2 teaspoon. It's close enough. And a little bit of maple syrup. So this does, you could use any other sweetener that you like as well. It says 1 to 2 teaspoons. We'll stick with 1. I want to see how sweet it is. And then, like I said, you can add stuff on top. So what you add on top could have a little sweetness as well. Or you could even drizzle some more maple syrup on top of that. So we're gonna whisk all of that together. We have that egg in there. Again, this is another one, you add that egg so it adds a little bit more of that protein, those healthy fats in there as well. And that will just help to satisfy our kiddos for longer. A lot of our breakfast foods tend to just be carbs. And carbs is something we just burn pretty quick. That's our body's preferred source for energy. So it'll burn off quick and then we'll be hungry soon. You don't want that to happen to you or your kiddos. So that is the benefit of all of these recipes, is the little extra protein boost all of them have. So I just stir that up and it literally just looks like wet French toast, like what you would imagine. This could also maybe be something that you make on the stovetop as well. But it says optional to let it sit for 1 to 2 minutes, and then we're gonna stick it in our air fryer for about 6 minutes. And then you have your variety of toppings that you can do. So I'll show you that at the end. But you could do fruit. I brought some blueberries to throw on top. Hemp hearts are really good. This is another one. It's that brain booster that's gonna be really good for that brain development as our kids are learning all day. You could add a little bit more maple syrup. You could do a little bit of yogurt. And then you could also do something like a nut butter. So this is really great for people who you need a little bit more variety. All your kids don't like the same things. You wanna let them have some autonomy in what they're choosing for breakfast. But any of these 3 recipes would be wonderful recipes for you to make with your family, or for your family, for yourself, just to satisfy you to get through that morning kind of wake up rush that you might be having. So hopefully this was helpful to you to give you some new ideas, and we'll see you guys next time on At the Table.